Hello, everyone. We are live. So I hope that everybody's enjoying themselves. I just want to introduce myself. I am Lumbie Mlambo, founder of and CEO of Dondolo. I'm the one who curated this session at the Science Summit at the General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly. So I would like to, first of all, welcome you all and thank you all for accepting the invitation to be speakers, and everybody else that is attending the session. Thank you so much for joining us. So I would like to start by introducing this session itself so you guys kind of know what the session is about. So like I said again, welcome everyone. The Partnerships for Progress, leveraging imaging technologies and smart city development for sustainable future is divided into 3 sub-sessions. The sub-session for this panel 1 is named Partnerships, Multi-Stakeholder Collaboration, and Socioeconomic Impacts. The objective is to examine how joint efforts among governments, private sectors, entities, and academic institutions and civil society organizations drive innovation and ensure holistic development. This session will highlight the socioeconomic impacts of smart city projects, focusing on how these initiatives can promote social equity, enhance economic development, and foster generational wealth within communities. We expect to gain insights into effective models of multi-stakeholder collaboration and learn how to replicate these models in your own context to reduce poverty and enhance economic opportunities and promote social equity, to learn the practices and case studies that showcase successful partnerships and their impacts on urban development, highlighting the importance of collaborative approaches, to learn the strategies for inclusive development, addressing the needs of marginalized and underserved communities, to take away any concrete action plans for stakeholders and frameworks to ensure that the benefits are widely distributed, and to learn about the impact measurement tools to help stakeholders assess the effectiveness and inclusivity of their initiatives. And then, among all, to tap into the opportunities for funding inclusive development to promote equitable access in underserved communities. So now, I would like to play a short video. I'm going to share here. I want you to see this video. So here we go. Let's see, right here. Right. All right, here we go.
Delving into the United Nations General Assembly, we at JB Dondolo and Impactiverse ask that as you engage, you're reminded of foundational aspects that underpin our work and these panels. Without access and more open science, we cannot progress the goals for the greater good. Without partnerships, collaboration, and coordinated effort, we cannot amplify the impact we intend to have. And without engaging our youth, we risk eliminating the hope of long-term solutions for future generations. On that note, we proudly introduce our youth interns. They'll be listening closely and capturing key insights to be reviewed by us ahead of submission to the UN General Assembly Science Summit to inform the upcoming Summit of the Future. We appreciate your contributions as we embark on this important journey together. Thank you for helping to shape a sustainable future.
So with that being said, I would like to hand over the control now and introduce you to your moderator, and that is Gretchen Villegas. If you're not speaking or you're not attending this panel, I'm asking you to turn off your video. We would like to see at this time only those that are participating in session 1, panel 1. And that is Josh Maestro, Sai Shetty, Gretchen Villegas, and Josh Maestro. If you're not participating, please turn off your video. Okay, So welcome, Gretchen Villegas. Please take it your way.
Thank you, Lumbie. Thank you very much for that introduction. And good morning to everyone here at the panel. My name is Gretchen Villegas, and I'm a global development executive with 25 years of experience, including 15 of those years living and working in Africa and Latin America, alongside and with vulnerable communities, as Lumbie had mentioned in the introduction. I'm now the founder and CEO of Nexus Strategy and Growth Partners, where I support social impact and development NGOs, social enterprises, and corporations with achieving their goals by helping them increase their revenue. I know that to grow impact and even revenue, you need partnerships and collaborations. And today, the challenges are so great that we are facing in the world that we need real solutions coming forward. And none of us can go at it alone. We need partnerships and we need collaborations. And I am extremely excited to have our amazing panelists here today because they have some initiatives that are really making a difference. And we're going to hear some great stories and great results. And so get ready. So I'd like to start with Jennifer. Jennifer, as the head of 10 times 1,000 Tech for Inclusion and an experienced professional with a demonstrated history of working in financial technology, please share your insights on how we can harness collective intelligence and diverse perspectives to accelerate innovation and mastery of emerging technologies.
Yeah. Okay. First, thank you for having me. I think we all agree innovation actually thrives on diversity. Imagine, when individuals, we all with different backgrounds, culture, gender, and disciplines, and also experience, we just all come together. The collective intelligence actually transcends the sums of our individual knowledge and unique insights, and which will lead to the breakthroughs that none could achieve alone. And for 10 times 1,000 Tech for Inclusion, we are philanthropy, a project aiming to nurture future tech leaders. We strongly believe in collective intelligence. We do not only offer a learning platform, but we also ride on the platform to connect our learners and build a community which facilitate their collective intelligence. And talking about, to accelerate innovation and mastery of technologies, I consider there are several important factors. First is mindset change. It is very important that, we need the people to understand that actually nothing for them to shine. We actually treasure their advice, their voice. So they will have, under environment that they would like to talk about, what they feel. And they understand that, by sharing their knowledge, actually we really, treasure, their sharing, okay? And second thing is the realignment of the organization structure. This is also very important because traditionally a lot of entity, they may just, they just split the company into, different functions, okay? As we know that the finance, customer service, sales and marketing. But actually, we find that if you want to be effective, you need to treasure the diversity. So probably you actually need to consider whether you would like to have people, they're under different disciplines, have this, what we call a cross-disciplinary, a group, a team to work on certain project. So this is something probably you consider it is pretty new, but actually we understand in a lot of this tech company, they already, adopt this kind of approach instead of it based on the traditional way. They actually just use, this, you can say a project type, a project nature structure. And thirdly is technology. As we know that, now you get a lot of this information, a lot of data, and thanks to the technology, the AI, the big data, it is actually very easy for us to, to absorb, digest, consolidate, do a lot of different analysis. And most importantly is because we also can experiment that very easily under the current, technology. And by, do the experiment, we can see, okay, whether it works or not work. If, we can fine tune that very easily. And then it also, that means it facilitates the rapid prototyping. And last but not least is, because of all that, one thing is also very important for this is, we also need to have a mindset change about how to face failure, how to accept, how to learn from the failures. Because, we understand nothing will be perfect from the first time. So probably, especially by we talking about consolidate so many different intelligence, we may need to try, we may need to fine tune and adjust. So it is also very important. We need to have a very good, I would say, we need to have a very good attitude, okay, about when this is failed, nothing, we just try again. So this is what I consider very important, to have an effective collective intelligence.
Oh, Jennifer, that is it's amazing. I think what you have done at 10 times 1,000, talking about multidisciplinary teams and really building up, the future leadership in tech. It's something so important because technology, it can be feel scary, right? Or feel so new. But like you said, starting out and just trying and then bringing in especially teams that are looking at it from different perspectives is such a great way to move forward, looking at it as never a failure, but as a step forward, going forward, and then you can pivot and keep moving. It's really amazing.
So it is a kind of like interaction of minds. Okay, we are everybody, just sharing the knowledge, and we believe that by combining these two, actually we will have this power of collaboration.
And collaboration, that is what brings the true success at the end of the day. That's what brings the not the failure, but the success rate. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, speaking about youth and building up young leaders, which 10 times 1,000 Tech has done a great job. Sai, you are a young scholar who delivers a positive impact on crucial community issues by actively engaging the youth to lead and inspire community involvement. How can youth-led initiatives contribute to the development of equitable and sustainable smart cities, particularly in addressing the digital divide and empowering marginalized communities?
Right. So the thing about youth-led initiatives is it fosters the development and equitable of sustaining smart cities, right? And they harness this by doing innovation and technology, social equity, education and awareness. Like these are like important parts to go up and be successful for the late coming future. And it also like helps kind of keep because we're not going to be the only ones with the youth, what I'm saying? Technology is going to keep growing more and it's going to keep on going up, so it's just going to keep on changing. So there's different generations on which will be going on. So technology, I think, is pretty helpful for environment as well, in a way, because I believe that, like, for example, let me take out the water sprinklers, right? In a way, that's a form of technology. But before that, you had people having to go to the wells and then take the water and then water the plants and stuff like that. But now we have water sprinklers. In the future, we might have something to like make like futuristic rain or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like a pretty important part of environment as well. So technology is pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about any of the examples that you're starting to share? You definitely got some smiles out of us there starting. Please go ahead.
Another thing I think is education awareness, right? That's pretty important to build up and to go forward with youth built initiatives. And I believe that we do have to still follow the elders, and we still have to like go forward and follow the advice of the elders and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think the youth, they have a better view in a sense of the world, because they see what's going on in the future, and they see what is the future. So we kind of push forward to it, and then we will just make it like kind of a better place, you know? That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. I mean, next generation is really mentoring all of us, I have to
Right.
say. If we talk about next gen youth, wouldn't we say? I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I have to call in my daughters to actually help me learn one or two things to
Right.
move myself forward and access some of the technology and information that's here. But can you tell us a little bit more about just some of the kind of maybe some of the youth and mentorship and kind of the coming together of leaders?
Right. So the thing about leaders is, I mean, of course, community engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something has to do that. You have the potential, right, to bridge gaps between different communities and local governments. Because I'm not to brag, but I'm taking myself as an example, right? So I mean, I made an effort to go out there and the city of Arlington and then talk to Miss Lumbie. And that's how I'm here today speaking to you. And what I think nowadays is the problem with youth is most of us are pretty reserved. And I understand that myself as well, because I myself was reserved once upon a time before I met Miss Lumbie and before I met many of my mentors. So I think community engagement for the youth especially is very important, because now we as the youth are looking forward to because I understand like when I go out there and I see my mentors, I'm like, okay, fine, wow, they're so good and they're so social, and we're talking like so much with other people and stuff. But I see my generation, I kind of feel sad sometimes that we don't have a lot of people going forward and talking about the community and talking about leadership and taking that role to be a leader for the next upcoming generations. So we need more leaders, and we need more community leaders and people who will spread awareness about certain moments, and that's how we make the world a better place. Awareness. That's
Right.
what's
That,
makes the world a better place.
so I love that. I love that kind of call to action, that we all need to kind of step forward and
Right.
and be leaders in bringing everyone together. And you're right, Miss Lumbie, she is amazing at doing that for sure. But you step forward, and I think that is a great example.
I
And
mean,
so
Miss
I
Lumbie did
love
teach
that you
me.
shared that.
Right, Miss Lumbie did teach me how to step forward. So I mean, big credit to her, and I mean, big credit to my mom as well, because she is the one who got me in the pictures. So that's what I'm
Thank
saying.
you, Sai. And
Definitely.
talking about mentors and learning about new technologies, Josh, as a founder of an organization committed to circular economy and waste diversion and tracking, how can we maximize the long-term socioeconomic and environmental impact of smart city initiatives through collaborative innovation and effective waste management strategies, such as landfill diversion and automation?
Yeah, thank you, Gretchen. And just want to say very quickly, it's an honor to be here, even though Sai is making me feel old over here in Philadelphia. No, all kidding aside, I think in order to drive the best outcomes for people living in cities, with these partnerships, you need to align incentives across private companies, nonprofit organizations, and city government in order to accomplish a common goal. I say that because I think the reality is that these sectors often innovate in silos because they're working on different internal incentive structures. And it creates this system where on paper, each sector and everyone involved is doing the right thing. But ultimately, when you walk outside, you still see trash and litter all over the street. And so it creates this really conflicting data. And that has these negative domino effects, right? Like litter will impact property value, which will impact a family's ability to generate wealth, which will impact mental health. And then again, on paper, everything looks good, but in reality, the cycle continues. And so once you can align incentives, to achieve a common goal, you can then identify the logical cross-sector partnerships that make sense. And then you can figure out where to insert things like automation, or I should say, what part of the processes you can automate, rather than automation for the sake of automation. We always like to think of automation as a tool to accomplish a goal, not an end goal itself. An example with our own company here in Philadelphia. So we use data to divert things like furniture from landfills. And the way that we did it here in Philadelphia is we created a platform to connect big apartment buildings with unwanted furniture to nonprofit organizations, and then help with the logistics. The reason why we set it up that way, this platform, is because it provided visibility and a clear incentive structure to all the stakeholders involved to work together to achieve the higher level goal of landfill diversion. You know, so when you're keeping these things out of landfills, there's a cost benefit to the apartment building. There's a cost benefit to the platform. There's a revenue opportunity for the nonprofit resellers. There are job opportunities for the people moving the furniture. And then there's a benefit to the city because we're keeping these big and bulky items from unnecessarily clogging up trash systems. So again, we look to align incentives across these different stakeholders, right? And then lastly, we internally think a lot about data, and we're always trying to look for new data to drive new solutions. And I do think there's a future where we can track waste, just like you can track energy or water through things like meters, because the problem right now is there's not a lot of great data about waste. And so it kind of flips the incentive structure backwards in cities, where if you want to do something sustainable, you typically have to pay more money, which is a barrier to entry. So I think, over time with better data, you really get better solutions and then ultimately better outcomes across all those sectors and ultimately for the people living in the cities.
Yeah, Josh, better data and incentive structures. We all hear you. We all hear you. I love the point about incentive structures. What makes us want to do it, right? But without the data, it's really hard to even sell that pitch. But I'm so glad to hear that you're moving forward with that, because you're going to be able to help so many cities and globally for sure. Jennifer, what strategies can be implemented to empower individuals and communities to co-create solutions and drive development through shared knowledge and skills?
Yeah. Okay. Before answering this question, actually, I would like, as a humble elderly, I would like to address to Sa is that I'm actually a mentor for a lot of mentees, but I always enjoy that because I think that is a reciprocal mentorship. I actually learn a lot from the youth. A lot of, as I say, because sometimes probably we are in a framework, but because, talking to you guys, a lot of these things out, out of box ideas, it really inspired me. So, I would say we learn from each other. Okay.
Yeah.
But, then back to this question, talking about co-creation. Actually, this is very important nowadays for co-creation, because I think unlike before, no one company or no one can deliver a service or product end to end. Okay, and especially now, the technology changes so fast. Almost every day we have some new ideas, new technologies, and also most important is that even for customer nowadays actually is also very challenging. They are talking about personalization. They want something which is tailor-made for them. So, co-creation become very important because it can maximize the benefit by encouraging, more active participation of multiple stakeholders, and then company that agree, to achieve a common goal. But one thing important is that for co-creation, you want it to be successful, you must have a purpose. First, there must be a purpose, and it must be a shared purpose, which, agreed by all the parties. So it is very important, unify shared purpose. For example, I just take 10 times 1,000 as example. We offer, a learning platform, which is an online learning platform, but actually we can't do everything by ourselves. Okay, we are a technology company. We are, so it's sponsored by N Group, a technology company. Of course, we also have some content to share, but we can't have all the contents. So we actually also, leverage with a lot of our partners. Some of our partners, they are actually industry experts. and they have a lot of contents. They can run our platform to deliver their contents. We also have a lot, some local partners who may have a lot of, they have lots of this youth, a young generation who would like to learn the program. And so, we work together and just all share the same goal, is that we would like to address the issue of unequal access of, learning resources. And this is, an example. First, you must have a shared purpose before, we talk about co-creation. And then, because we are talking about so many different, parties. So one thing very important is that we also need to develop an environment of trust. Because, say, for example, like in our case, we contribute the platform, okay, the technology. We have our partners who contribute, their local network, their local community, and we have some contribute, their content. So it must be, we must have ongoing, very open and transparent communication. We all understand what we are doing. So nobody will just think, okay, probably you hide something from us. Okay. So this is very important in order to have, the co-creation environment. And thirdly is the diversity we know about, because you have different parties, they have different, background, different interests. So we also need to respect the diversity. We need to listen. When I'm talking about respect, I want to we are not talking about compromise. I'm not talking about you need to compromise. We are talking about we share, we talk about, and then we may work on some solution, some new solution, which actually can cater for what we need, and no one need to be compromised. And of course, very important is that you really need to create a value for all the stakeholders. And this is very important, because otherwise, how can you incentivize them? So that's why, for co-creation, I will see that it will become more and more, important, and more, just very common, especially in this technology world. As I mentioned, that nobody can do everything by themselves. Right. And so, we need to interact, we need to rely on, our different partners, their resources. And by, consorting them together, we can achieve something which is, the benefit we achieve is much, higher than what we can do on a long basis.
Yes, Jennifer, absolutely. I mean, I have seen it over and over again, and absolutely believe it, because we've seen the results of co-creation. And when people come together, when organizations come together, because not one of us, like you said, on your platform, there's no way you could bring all of that content together, but you bring the expertise and people know where to find it. And, it does link to a lot of what Josh was talking about incentive structure, about working together, and that co-creation, partnership, collaboration has to happen. Absolutely, for the shared purpose. I love how you talked about the shared purpose, because I think it really is about that. And so moving on now to your second question, Sai, how can smart city initiatives be designed to actively involve and benefit marginalized communities while ensuring that the voices of all community members are heard and considered in the planning and implementation process?
Right. So I definitely want to say, I think Mr. Josh and Ms. Jennifer already answered the question in a way, but I mean, inclusion and diversity and like working together, that's the biggest part about it, because that's how we move forward, and that's how we like work together, and that's how we bring in ideas, because not everyone thinks the same, right? Some might be logical, some might be creative, some might be funny, but that's what makes it special. That's what makes us human special, that we all have a different, unique personality. So we have different ideas. So those ideas make an idea, right? Like, for example, Nikola Tesla, he created electricity, and I don't know the exact name, but Alexander, his first name, he created telephones. If not for Nikola Tesla not creating electricity, Alexander could not create telephones, and then we wouldn't have communications, and we wouldn't be in Zoom today. So that's a part of it. It's coming together and working together. It's community engagement. That's the most important part of growing forward and moving forward to initiate smart building cities because in the future we're going to have, I mean, AI is a big thing now. That you
Mhm.
have ChatGPT and you have all these kids using the ChatGPT to cheat on homework and stuff.
Right.
But you have online like AI to help you out, not only in the homework, but you have AI to help you out in like doing more like videos, or you have AI to help you out in giving you ideas. So in the future, you're gonna have AI to probably help out like building community engagements, and we're gonna help like all that. So I think it's pretty important that we do community work forward, and then we also like appreciate that technology is moving forward, and definitely
Yeah.
that's how we do it.
Yeah, absolutely, Sai. So technology is moving forward, whether
Mhm.
we move with it or we don't, it's
Right.
moving forward. And I really appreciate what you said about bringing in diversity of perspectives is what's going to bring the right technology forward for everyone. And I think that's very true. It's we all come from different places with different backgrounds and different needs from around the world. And you're absolutely right. If we don't have all of those perspectives in the world, we will end up excluding large percentages of people. And it's going to really set an unequal balance. And we don't want that to happen for sure. Plus, Alexander Bell, who came up with the telephone. Yeah, you're right. Somebody's got to take the risk, right? Somebody's got to take the risk. And what I hear today from this panel is that you guys took risks. You took risks to step forward, do something a little bit different, and there's been some great results. So Josh, I'm going to hand it over to you now to answer, how can successful multi-stakeholder partnerships be replicated and scaled to drive the development of sustainable smart cities, with a particular focus on waste management and technological innovative tools that save countless manual hours?
Yeah, I think in this case, scale, or how we would define scale, is just success across multiple cities. And in order to do that, I think there needs to be an element of customization and flexibility in terms of how the goal is accomplished, or in other words, flexibility in how the solutions are implemented. Because cities are so different from each other, it creates these really niche challenges from one city to the next, even if they're geographically close. And so I think what can be standardized to maximize outcomes across multiple cities is the approach that cities take, again, toward aligning incentives. You'll probably hear me echo that a lot, but we want everybody innovating in the same direction, and that will look a little bit different from city to city, which is okay. I think about a hypothetical example. Let's say that Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Dallas, Texas, both want to increase their composting rates across the city. In reality, although they have the same goal, they have different geographic challenges, different logistics challenges, different climate challenges. But if you create a really clear incentive structure, you would see natural patterns in terms of what type of cross-sector partnerships emerge. But if you were to open up the hood, you would see the implementation of those partnerships, or the moving pieces of those partnerships, probably look a lot different. And so, and maybe another example within our own company, we work with these nonprofit resellers like Habitat for Humanity Restore. They resell gently used furniture items to fund the building of new homes in their communities. But the reality in our case is that each restore has very different inventory needs. And so it's up to us as a platform to optimize our internal process with each restore location to ensure that they're getting the best possible inventory from our platform. Because if they are, then they're building more homes, they're generating more revenue, they're bringing more economic development to cities. We're helping the cities keep more things from unnecessarily piling up in landfills, and then providing a cost benefit back to the end user. So I think, again, kind of taking that standardized approach across cities maximizes the outcomes and creates that scale, but it just looks different than what we think of as scale, maybe in just a software scenario where you find one thing that works and try to sell it as many times as possible. And then I think an exciting part of waste management, which is, I think people tease me for saying that, is technology looks very different across the waste industry. I often jokingly compare it to space, where you can actually be a company building a rocket ship or building a company, excuse me, building the software infrastructure. It's similar in waste management, where there are really brilliant companies focusing on hardware innovations for trucks and new processing centers that I think don't get the public credit that they deserve. And I think there could also be partnerships between early stage companies on software and hardware across these different cities, again, to maximize outcomes. It's tricky because at the early stages, that's where you see that rapid innovation, but it's also very risky to even be in business, let alone work with others. And I think that's where city governments can step in to help incentivize those partnerships while also working to de-risk them for everyone involved to get that scale that we're looking for.
Yeah, it is a risk to step forward. That's why, I was really applauding all of you here for making that step forward, because it is business, right? It's your livelihood, it's a business. But number one, what I really honed in on with both of your questions that you answered today is how much impact. I mean, with this solution, there's so much impact that you're bringing forward. And if others were to join and partner with you across cities, it would be amazing, even more impact that would come forward. So I'm excited to watch and see what happens coming forward with all that you're doing, Josh. It's very exciting. So we have about 4 minutes left. So I want to ask Lumbie, do we have questions that we wanted answered during this session? Oh, thank you, Josh, for putting your email into the hosts and panelists here. Thank you. Lumbie,
No.
are you there?
Yes, I'm here. No, we don't have any questions at this
Okay.
point. So go ahead.
Yeah. So Lumbie, we have, is it about 3 minutes left? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Well, let's go around. I'm just going to ask you one piece of advice as we walk out of here. Jennifer, one piece of succinct advice for everyone listening today that they can do after this panel. Quickly.
Yeah, I think most important is that we need to respect diversity, which I think is very important. Yeah, it actually will help us to open our eyes. And also we will think a lot of things which, it is just, you never think about that, but actually you can achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sai, over to you. One piece of advice.
One piece of advice for me personally, just be yourself, because being yourself is the best version of yourself. And don't be like somebody else. Like if you want to be like Dwayne Johnson, you're not Dwayne Johnson, so you're not going to be as Dwayne Johnson. You're going to be Sai Shetty. So be like Sai Shetty, you know what I'm saying? That's all the advice I can give them.
Oh, Sai, you don't want to be The Rock?
I mean, The Rock is different, right? He's doing his own stuff. I'm doing my own stuff. That's what I'm saying.
No, we love Sai Shetty just the way you are, and keep being
Right.
Sai Shetty, please.
Appreciate it.
I love it. Great words of wisdom. And Josh, over to you. What are your words of wisdom for our viewers today?
Yeah, and I actually did like what Sai said earlier about stepping forward to act. And I always think about the ability to act in the face of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but again, the ability to act in the face of it. So I just encourage everybody to face a fear and act.
Yeah, those are great words of wisdom from all of you. I have learned so much today from being here with you, and I thank you so much for sharing about your organizations, about the impacts that you're bringing forward, about how the partnerships and collaborations are really making the difference in what you're doing. And from what I can hear, you're just getting started. And I think there's a great invitation for others to reach out to you and to be talking about, how you can co-create, Jennifer, and combine, Josh, some of those incentive structures. I think we can get really creative about incentive structures, because that really does move the needle when it's about your own pocketbook, right? And about being able to feed your family, and then doing the right sustainable things. And Sai, making sure that our leadership and our young people are mentored and moved up into those roles, I think are key. I have to say, I love my time living and working abroad, because when I was in Africa and Latin America, all the things you're talking about came from different perspectives. And as an American, being there was just amazing. And it was, I would say, being there for 15 years and then coming back gave me such great perspective, which I don't think I could change for the world. So I thank you all for being here. And with this, we will close our session.
Thank you so much, everyone, for participating on this panel one. And thank you so much, Gretchen, for moderating. I greatly appreciate that. At this time, we are ready to start the next session. I believe that's session 2. I just want to check to make sure everybody's here for that session. If you are in that session, please turn on your cameras. And the ones that just completed your sessions, please turn off your cameras. Okay, I see Catalina. I see Dr. Meyer. Let me check to make sure everyone is here. Okay, Nigel, you're here?
Hold on,
Okay.
I'm trying to, give me a second.
Okay. All right. So, okay, great. So I have all of you here, so we can begin. The only people I need to see at this time are just the 3 of you and the moderator, of course, that is Gretchen.
Yeah.
And Gretchen, I don't see your camera.
I am here.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes,
All right, wonderful. So good afternoon, good morning, and good evening for everyone from wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us today and all the attendees. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your acceptance of the invitation to speak at the Science Summit at the United Nations General Assembly. So we are starting now, and I'm going to go ahead and begin. So, like I said, welcome everyone. The Partnerships for Progress, Leveraging Imaging Technologies and Smart City Development for Sustainable Future is divided into 3 subsessions. The subsession for this panel 2 is named Imaging Technologies, Ethical Considerations, and Responsible Development. The objective is to explore the transformative potential of imaging technologies in the development of smart cities by examining how innovations like IoT, AI, and big data analytics are revolutionizing urban infrastructure and services. This session will address the ethical implications of these technologies, emphasizing the importance of responsible development practices to ensure that smart city initiatives are inclusive, secure, sustainable, and fostering environments that respect privacy, promote equity, and prioritize environmental stewardship. We expect to gain insights into the latest technological advancements driving smart city development, including the applications and benefits, to learn ethical considerations and best practices for integrating emerging technologies in a way that respects privacy, security, and inclusivity, to learn strategies for responsible development, balancing technological innovation with social and environmental responsibilities, to gain actionable insights and practical tools to contribute to more resilient and equitable urban environments. And lastly, to tap into opportunities for finding inclusive technologies to promote urban development. So I want to play a video for you here, just an opening video. That is 1-minute video. Okay. So here we go. Sorry, I don't think I'm sharing. Let me share first. I forgot to share my screen. So let me do that first. All right. Okay, here we go.
Delving into the United Nations General Assembly, we at JB Dondolo and Impactiverse ask that as you engage, you're reminded of foundational aspects that underpin our work and these panels. Without access and more open science, we cannot progress the goals for the greater good. Without partnerships, collaboration, and coordinated effort, we cannot amplify the impact we intend to have. And without engaging our youth, we risk eliminating the hope of long-term solutions for future generations. On that note, we proudly introduce our youth interns. They'll be listening closely and capturing key insights to be reviewed by us ahead of submission to the UN General Assembly Science Summit to inform the upcoming Summit of the Future. We appreciate your contributions as we embark on this important journey together. Thank you for helping to shape a sustainable future.
All right. So I'll stop sharing now, and I'm going to give control to Gretchen Villegas. She's our host today, and thank you all again for participating. Gretchen, there you go.
Thank you, Lumbie. Thank you very much. And good morning to everyone here with us this morning. My name's Gretchen Villegas, and I'm a global development executive with 25 years of experience, 15 of which I was living and working in Africa and Latin America, working alongside and with vulnerable communities. And I'm now the founder and CEO of Nexus Strategy and Growth Partners. I support social impact and development partners, social enterprises and corporations with achieving their impact goals by helping them grow their revenue streams. Okay. And I know that to grow impact and to grow revenue, right, we need not only collaborations, but we also need to bring forward those technological advances. And they are coming forward, whether we're going with them or not. And so I'm extremely excited to hear from our panelists today who have taken a very innovative approach in terms of technology and advances towards reaching actual impact. And they have great stories to share with us today. So I'd like to start with Catalina. So Catalina, your company, Elixa, builds smart city tech companies. How are IoT, AI, and big data analytics enhancing urban infrastructure and services in smart cities? And what measures can be taken to secure these technologies against cyber threats? With examples of their impact on areas like transportation, healthcare, or energy management.
Great question. Lovely to be here. I guess just to dive straight in, data offers transparency, and that's the first point. It enables better and faster decision making. Think about what we can do when we have real information, right? And historically, we've been doing things based off of something I like to call guesstimating. We do a lot of guesswork when it comes to building new things, when it comes to retrofitting, when it comes to energy. And think about how many times you overpaid for an energy bill just because they've guessed how much you needed, and they still haven't found a way to measure this in real time. And so, in fact, a lot of our technologies focus on the data piece, and in fact, all technologies utilize data. And it's those technologies which utilize this accurately, which are the standout and breakthrough technologies and the ones who end up succeeding. One of our technologies, ArcLife, focuses on energy. So by utilizing sensors, we can collect data, update data in real time, and measure heat loss and therefore energy efficiency. And so what that means is that we can then create a tool which sells clean energy. SDG number 7. And so we're working, across Middle East, New York, UK as primary markets, but actually, a lot of this would then come into the developing regions such as South America, which I know you said, Gretchen, you're a huge part of or were in the past, and that's where my roots are actually from as well. So I'd love to start creating some projects over there. But then if we look at other technologies, for example, MetaConnex, we've created an urban development and planning tool. It means that we're able to speed up the planning system, which in turn accelerates government targets for building requirements. Because, they set really great targets and goals, but how are we actually going to meet them? And so again, data unlocks all of this. And so we have so many unique data sets locked into this technology. By utilizing digital twins, we're able to then simulate, plan, and build according to the accurate data to show what they could look like, how they would perform. And we've just recently proved a 500 million GDP increase over just a matter of weeks, just across a few sites actually in Bolton, if anyone is familiar with the UK. And that was just a matter of weeks. And that shows what technology can do. But actually, if we take apart what technology is, it's a load of different data sets communicating. And so data is so important. And therefore, a huge difference between digitalizing this process and how it's currently being done, which if anybody is familiar with the planning process, it takes people months, years, sometimes somebody's got to submit a 2D plan, which goes back and forth for months and months between 10 different people and finally back to the local authority to finally get a decision. Whereas, if we can digitalize this process and also advance it, it's in one place where people can make amendments in seconds because of all these different data integrations, and then submit it for planning and appraise developments. And that's just the basic part of the tool, right? And other tools that are out there as well. And that's really important. And that shows how, data and technology are advancing these things, but actually meeting targets. And because obviously when it comes to our climate goals, we need to be making sure that we are accelerating and catalyzing it somehow. And I think data is a huge part of that. And data unlocks our future and it enables and catalyzes collaboration.
Hi, Catalina. I really like that perspective. Data will unlock our future because data will help give us the answers of how things are communicating. I think if we can all think about it in that way, it's using data to create innovative technologies to solve problems. But it's also, as you said very clearly, the data sells the solution itself. And that's really the amazing part of it. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that and those specific examples as well. I mean, who wouldn't want to do clean energy and reduce your electric bill at the same time? I'd call that an incentive.
So do I.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that, Nigel, we're going to be looking at how can a youth voice come into that as well. So Nigel, you're a visionary young entrepreneur who co-founded Gemstone Geniuses. I love that name. And Catalyst to Change. So Gemstone Genius and a Catalyst to Change. Those are perfect. To inspire positive change in youth. A gifted leader who creates enriching learning experiences for children. How can we leverage such experiences in youth engagement and empowerment to co-create innovative, smart city solutions that prioritize inclusivity, sustainability, and the active participation of young people and their communities?
Yeah, so leveraging youth and engagement to co-create innovative smart cities is essential for developing cities that are inclusive, sustainable, and foster active participation. So, us young people were pretty tech savvy and we're pretty much the key stakeholders of the future urban development. So to truly harness our potential, it's important to adopt the co-creation model where youth are not just recipients of policies, but active contributors and that they're a part of the process. So I just made a simple 6-plan step. That way it's just boom, boom, boom. And it's easy, something easy you can take home. So the first part would be having youth as digital natives and innovators. So since young people are inherently skilled at using technology, making them natural contributors to smart city innovations would be beneficial. They are digital natives who can bring fresh perspectives on how to integrate technologies like AIs, IoT, and data analytics into urban systems. So by engaging them in smart projects, we tap into their ability to rapidly adapt and innovate with these tools. Secondly, co-creation and collaboration. For youth, engagement has to be meaningful. We must position them as co-creators and not simply as contributors. So this means involving them at every stage in the process: design, implementation, evaluation, to create cities that have platforms that bring youth initiative together. So programs like youth councils or innovation labs can enable youth to actively participate in decision-making, ensuring that their insights help them shape policies that reflect their priorities. Third, ensuring inclusivity. So since we are a diverse group representing various backgrounds, genders, socioeconomic classes, it's important to be diverse when doing these things. So by including youth from underserved communities, that we can ensure that smart city solutions do not widen existing social gaps, but instead promote equality. For example, young people from low-income neighborhoods may prioritize affordable, efficient public transportation, while those with disabilities can help design more accessible public spaces. Fourth, sustainability as a core value. So sustainability is often a key concern for youth who are deeply aware of climate change and environmental degradation. By involving young people in the design of smart cities, we can prioritize eco-friendly solutions that align with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, also known as SDG. And young activists and innovators can propose initiatives such as renewable energy, infrastructure, and sustainable waste management systems and energy efficient housing. My fifth point would be active participation throughout education and skill development. To empower youth in smart city development, cities must invest education and skill building programs. This includes providing access to STEM education, urban planning, and civic engagement training. I mean, if I would have had any of this stuff when I was going through school, it would have been amazing. So these programs equip youth with the tools that they need to participate actively and meaningfully, and gives them a sense of purpose. So governments, NGOs, and educational institutions can collaborate to develop curricula that teach these skills while promoting a sense of social responsibility. My sixth point and my last point would be using technology for civic participation. Digital platforms can be a powerful tool for youth engagement. So apps, websites, social media provide spaces for young people to voice their opinions, propose solutions, or even track the progress of smart projects. So crowdsourcing platforms, for example, allow youth to submit ideas or vote on proposed ideas. So cities that integrate these digital participation tools into their governance structures ensure that young people have a say in shaping their urban environments, enhancing civic engagement and accountability. So to wrap this all up, by leveraging youth and engagement empowerment, we can co-create smart cities that are innovative, inclusive, and sustainable. Young people bring a unique combination of digital skills, creativity, and social awareness that can drive meaningful change. Through collaboration, education, and active participation, we can build cities that are not only meet the technological demands of the future, but also prioritize equality, environmental stewardship, and the active involvement of young people in decision making.
Yeah, Nigel, thank you for that. Those are 6 points that are very concrete. And what I really hear you saying is that it's not okay just to say, okay, ask a few youth what they think, and then you can say they're included. No, this is something that we need to streamline, and we need to co-create, and we need to create structures to make that happen. I believe that is what many are doing, what others should be doing, and there's more work to be done. But I love that you gave very concrete ways that can help in reaching the Sustainable Development Goals for sure. But with that and bringing in youth, I mean, there also comes those questions of, is it safe, and ethical standards and whatnot. And Dr. Maya, you're the dean at the Forbes School of Business and Technology at the University of Arizona Global Campus. You've done extensive research and published peer-reviewed journals. The question is, how can stakeholders balance the drive for technical innovation with the need to safeguard ethical standards and public trust, while ensuring that public policies and community engagement make smart city initiatives more inclusive and equitable?
Thank you so much, Gretchen. It's a pleasure being here with you, with Catalina and Nigel. And hearing Catalina and Nigel speak, I'm so excited to hear a wonderful young people with all these amazing, amazing thoughts as to how we can work together and make this world better. in my capacity as the dean at the Forbes School of Business and Technology, and also working with the e-learning technological companies and on the different development ventures across the world when it comes to the e-learning arena, I was painfully aware that the progress when it comes to different corporate sectors is not always going hand in hand with best ethical practices and benefiting the communities across the world. So when Lumbie invited me to speak on this particular panel, I was trying to approach this question from two standpoints: standpoint of academia or standpoint of looking at the different corporations and what they're doing across the world. And as Nigel was pointing out some of the key points, there are particular points when it comes to balancing technological innovation and ethical standards. The very first one would be the stakeholder collaboration. Easier said than done. Government sector, tech companies, academia, communities have to work together to ensure that the innovation aligns with the ethical standards and public interest. Now, the ethical standards are not always universal. Yes, there are certain principles of ethics that are truly universal, but then ethical standards may vary across different segments of the society. So this collaboration has to result in the transparent frameworks that are governing the privacy sector, security, and the ethical use of emerging technologies. A lot of times when I was traveling across the world and doing some business across the world, what I've noticed is big companies, they are making certain arrangements with the public sector, and a lot of times the governments are asking them to comply with certain guidelines, and they're asking them to develop a certain areas. But there were a few instances in which I've noticed, for example, that foreign investors would develop areas around their factories, around their facilities, and then just a few miles down the road, the infrastructure was completely destroyed as a result of their efforts. So ultimately, what they were doing, they were showcasing progress, perceivably progress in just one small area, and neglecting the communities around that area and actually polluting. So the first thing, as I mentioned, was stakeholder collaboration. The second thing would be the inclusive public policies that actually consider all segments of the society, particularly marginalized groups. Smart city initiatives should be designed so that they enhance convenience and efficiency, but reduce inequality. And yes, convenience is usually enhanced, efficiency perhaps as well, but the inequality is actually not really looked at and not really focused on. How can this be achieved? This can be achieved through digital infrastructure. This can be achieved by making certain technologies accessible to everyone, regardless of the socioeconomic status, and providing digital literacy program to bridge the gap. Nigel mentioned the concept of digital natives. A lot of communities still have digital immigrants. Many of us from our generation are still digital immigrants, and not neglecting that segment of the society. And then lastly, the community engagement is essential. Public trust is built when citizens have say in the matter, when they are able to vote and they're able to participate in decision-making processes. Many countries I've witnessed where the communities had absolutely no say in the matter when it comes to influx of the foreign investment, when it comes to building of some major infrastructure within their cities, and they were absolutely neglected when it comes to their input as they were the ones impacted the most. So making sure that we have the projects where their voices are heard in order for them to trust the technology and trust the new development. So basically, fostering stakeholder collaboration, developing inclusive policies, and community engagement is the way to go when it comes to ensuring that technological innovation is enhancing society and it's actually following the ethical standards and enhancing lives of the members of the communities within which these technologies are implemented.
Dr. Maya, thank you. I mean, we want to do good, right? We don't want it to slide backwards. We don't want to have an unintended consequence actually bring something negative. And so I just really resonate with what you said about transparent frameworks, and not only the framework, but that everybody's included in it and that it's enforced. I must say it's a little concerning to actually hear some of your stories about, and I know they're true, is that, we can be doing fine in one area, but we're not looking, a little bit further down the road at the longer term, and there's actually some negative aspects. So thank you for sharing that. I think they're really good points, and will help as we're moving forward with many more technological advances. And with that also comes the data that Catalina spoke about earlier. So let's delve a little bit more into that. Catalina, how can smart city projects protect residents' privacy while leveraging data for improved services and infrastructure? And what frameworks or guidelines should be established to ensure that there is responsible development of these technologies?
Yeah, great question. Well, Gretchen, in my capacity as Group CEO of Elixir, when we're talking about data, it's more of a smart city level. It's sort of B2B, big data. And so we're not so much focused on the nitty-gritty of, who lives in this place or who lives in that place, but you'll be happy to know that a lot of the data does actually get anonymized. So, nobody knows who Mr. and Mrs. Green are, and that's probably quite refreshing to hear as a starting point to the conversation here. But much to my points earlier about data unlocking everything for us, for our futures, I referenced some of the technologies that we're building within the Elixir ecosystem, and we acknowledge that data infrastructure and security is a weakness across the industry, and would only become a bigger issue as more of us start to build more and more technologies over the coming decades. And so the issue now isn't about the access to data like it used to be, because data is everywhere now. It's about the accuracy and about the safety. And so from a B2B perspective or a B2G perspective, company X doesn't want to share information or all of their data with company Y, right? Because it could put their commercial strategy at risk. And a simple example, if we told a client that it cost them $1,000 when really it cost us 500, well, it won't really look very good, will it? And so companies just can't afford to share data. But that's obviously with the current data sharing infrastructure. So now we have to talk about where the innovation comes in. And so, what we have to think about what this could really truly unlock if we did share more data. If we think about that for a second, think about those examples that I used earlier and how data has enabled us to plan faster and more responsibly, or create more affordable and clean energy solutions. If we now think about what we could do with big data, how much more we could unlock, how many more challenges we could solve globally if we could just enable more collaboration and more people to share their data for the greater good. But remember what I said earlier about exposing company data. It's also then, how do we solve this? A data trust? Well, yeah, that's a starting point, but they're not exactly new, and it's just that nobody's really found a way to nail that down, I guess, when it comes to data trusts. But creating one is one thing. But if we talk about getting stakeholders engaged to adopt it, that's another thing. And so how do we then incentivize people to share their data? Well, there have to be financial incentives. Perhaps it unlocks a new market for them, for the data sharer, or perhaps it enriches their existing data and improves their existing products. Or perhaps there was something they were missing, and now it's available through somebody else's data. Well, the point is that people don't really do things for the greater good, unfortunately. Not everybody anyways. And that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about climate change and the methods towards it, and how, we can start to achieve these goals, but we also have to be a little bit more realistic. Companies need incentives to work towards climate goals. They need incentives, and we can think about, how, we need to look at CSR when it comes to companies and how companies are looking at their public image. But ultimately, without companies thriving economically, our economy also dies as well. And so we need to find incentives for companies to share their data, because we know what happens when we can truly unlock and share so much more data, and we have access to more reliable data. But if we look at that one word that I just said there, reliable, well, the reliability of our data is something that is also a huge concern and challenge at the moment. I mean, just recently, I don't know if any of you are based in the UK or have heard of any of the news here with regards to the issues with BRE and Grenfell, and how unreliable data has completely failed us. And see, we've always known what building A measured in height and width and maybe some of the internal rooms, but what about the measurements? Were they accurate? So a lot of data in the built environment we know is completely inaccurate. It's completely useless, unfortunately, because it's been outdated for such a long time. Somebody maybe measured it in the 50s and nobody's really come along and updated it, or put it into the public record, or whatever it is. There's so many different reasons as to
Right.
why it's inaccurate. And so now we have to look at the accuracy of any data that we look at. And it comes to like ChatGPT as well. If you look at like just above the entry bar, it says ChatGPT can be wrong because
Right.
it's inaccurate. And so we have to look at this from an accuracy point of view, but also then looking at the security.
Right.
There are ways that we can
That's right.
encrypt technologies, we can fractionalize things so that people are looking, if they wanted to hack a server, they could only hack a few before they got caught, because it could be fractionalized across hundreds and thousands of databases. And so just to summarize, this infrastructure, protects the person who would share the data and the data within it. But it's also about the strategy and the frameworks that we use. Why don't we start by sharing pieces of data with select groups of people, or particularly on certain projects, we could share anonymized data to make sure that the security is protected.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and that's why we share data, because the risk always supersedes the reward.
Yeah, Catalina, those are really good points. Very, very good points for all of us to take away. And Nigel, building on Catalina's points, as a young leader of nonprofit organizations, how can nonprofits, civil societies, private and public sector entities collaborate to develop ethical guidelines and governance frameworks for smart city technologies? How can the youth do it?
So the collaboration between non-profit civil societies, private sector entities, and public sector institutions is essential for developing ethical guidelines and governance frameworks for smart city technologies. So with smart cities increasingly relying on technologies like AI, IoT, and large data numbers, ensuring these innovations are aligned with ethical principles is critical. So once again, I've outlined these with 6 points. I'll just go over them. The first point being a multi-stakeholder approach. Each sector brings a unique perspective. So nonprofits advocate for social justice and inclusivity, and the private sector drives innovation, and the public sector ensures oversight and policy enforcement. By working together, we can create a balanced approach to smart city development, combining innovation with ethical considerations. So this multi-stakeholder model ensures that decisions about technology reflect diverse viewpoints, fostering both social equality and technological progress. My second point being defining core ethical principles. Collaboration begins with establishing a set of core principles, which might include privacy, security, equity, and accountability. Nonprofits can help champion these principles by advocating for vulnerable and marginalized communities, while the public sector can ensure these principles are enshrined in law and policy. The private sector, in turn, can build these values into the design of smart city technologies, ensuring that innovation does not come at a cost of ethics. My third point being data governance and privacy. One of the central issues is smart city development is data governance. As cities collect vast amounts of data, it's essential that it's handled ethically. Nonprofits can advocate for transparent data practices, while the public entities set regulatory policies to protect citizens' data. Private companies can adopt privacy by design frameworks, ensuring ethical data use from the outset. So collaboration in the space can result in clear data sharing rules and guidelines for user consent, making sure that citizens' rights are upheld in the digital age. My fourth point being developing ethical standards for AI and automation. I'm sure we've all heard or been scared about artificial intelligence taking over. So smart cities often rely on AI to manage everything from traffic to public services. However, without proper insight, these systems can embed bias or result in unintended harm. So nonprofits can play a critical role in identifying these risks, advocating for fairness and transparency in AI usage. The public sector can establish oversight mechanisms to monitor AI systems, while the private companies can adopt responsible AI practices and develop tools to audit their algorithms for bias. Together, these stakeholders can create ethical standards for AI that ensure it serves all community equability. My fifth point is public and private partnerships for ethical innovation. Public-private partnerships provide a framework for responsible innovation. By testing new technologies in collaboration with governments, and civil society, the private sector can ensure that new solutions are aligned with ethical guidelines before full-scale deployment. Nonprofits can monitor these pilots, offering insights and feedback to refine technologies, ensuring that they are not only innovative, but also ethical. And my last point, but also one of the most important points, is accountability and redress mechanisms. So clear accountability is key to ethical governance. Nonprofits can serve as watchdogs, ensuring that both private companies and governments are being held accountable for unethical practices. The public sector can establish regulatory bodies or ethics committees that investigate violations, while private companies can conduct independent audits and self-regulate. This creates a robust system where unethical behavior is swiftly addressed, ensuring trust in smart city systems. So to conclude everything, the collaboration between nonprofits, the private sector, and public institutions is critical for building ethical, sustainable, and inclusive smart cities. By working together, we can develop comprehensive governance frameworks, making sure we can ensure that smart city technologies prioritize fairness, transparency, and accountability.
Yeah, we need smart cities to be smart, don't we, Nigel?
Hope so.
Absolutely. The core principles you mentioned, I think are a key to start, is having the core principles across all of those nonprofits, corporates, and governments, agreed upon, right? First of all, those core principles, I really liked how you put that out front. And then second, checks and balances. You gave great concrete examples with all 6 of your points of how those checks and balances can actually happen. And then the key then, to go back to Catalina, is how do we incentivize each one of them to actually do it? And so I think that's where that putting our heads together, I like what you said, Nigel, putting our heads together and figuring that out is going to be important as we move forward. And to kind of close out this section on the being responsible in our development practices, because of course the Sustainable Development Goals ask us to not only to solve problems for the global world and reach solutions, but do it very responsibly as well. Dr. Maya, what emerging technological trends will significantly impact the future development of smart cities? And how can cities themselves prepare for and adapt to these rapid changes while maintaining ethical and responsible development practices?
Thank you so much for that question. And going back to that concept, smart cities need to be smart. In order for smart cities to be smart, we need to be smart within smart cities.
I like that.
And one of the things that I've encountered in the world of academia, well, first of all, everyone, Catalina and Nigel, as we were mentioning, artificial intelligence, we've also mentioned the ChatGPT. I remember the absolute panic that happened within the world of academia when ChatGPT ended up being readily available to the masses. And a lot of going back to the concept of being smart, a lot of universities at the offset of that movement, phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, started banning ChatGPT when it comes to usage. That is the equivalent of, we talked about phones during the first panel, that's the equivalent of banning phones or banning cars when it comes to the technological development. So we have to embrace technological developments and understand how to use it within the framework, the ethical framework that we're focusing on as part of this panel. So one of the things that we've done within our university was first and foremost trying to understand new technology. Education is absolutely crucial. In order to be able to use and embrace technology in an ethical manner, you have to understand it first. So we spent quite a bit of time educating our instructors, our faculty members, staff members how to use it, knowing very well that not only we're going to be the ones using it, our students will be the ones using it. And yet again, going back to that concept of digital natives versus immigrants, guess what? Digital natives will use it first. Therefore, when I've realized that my kids are using it ahead of me, I was like, you know what? I need to jump on that bandwagon and understand it. So first and foremost is understanding new technologies, whether it's, we're talking about a lot of different things such as artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, 5G, connectivity, big data analytics. When it comes to the AI, we have to understand that it's going to drive a lot of different, more streamlined, automated decision making, from the traffic management to energy optimization. So we have to ensure that the usage of these technologies, yet again, going back to the concept of transparency, accountability, and also making sure that it's free from bias. So as we're doing this within the urban infrastructure, it has to be still carefully monitored. It cannot be something that is left unchecked. These type of technologies will play such a significant part in many different fields. For example, the field of medicine. I was actually collaborating on a research venture, just providing business perspective, so no one should worry. Just business perspective when it comes to the dental college in Oman, for example, where their dental college was using AI in order to properly diagnose patients and actually implement certain technologies. So it is not necessarily whether we're going to use it, it's how we're going to use it, and making sure that as we're using it, that it's not replacing the human decision making, it's not replacing common sense when it comes to ethical behavior. The same thing with the big data analytics. It is allowing cities to make data-driven decisions to improve the urban planning, environmental sustainability, public services, and so forth. But we have to prioritize data ethics when we're doing this, ensuring that data is used and collected responsibly. Again, focus on the transparency and consent from citizens. Let's not collect data for the sake of collecting data and use it for different purposes.
Yeah, Dr. Maya, I can't agree more. That we absolutely have to get consent before we can use that data, and we have to do it responsibly. We have so much to talk about, and I know we've reached the end of our panel discussion here. I think all of you who are online watching, make sure you reach out to Dr. Maya and Catalina and Nigel if you have more comments or questions you want to talk with them about. But I thank you all very much. You've given such concrete ways to really think about how we can do responsible development. So Lumbie, back to you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your great insights. We've thoroughly enjoyed listening to you and learning. So thank you, Gretchen, for moderating this session. So now if you guys want to drop, you can drop, but we're going to the last session, subsession of this, main session. That's group 3, panel 3. So let me kick off by checking to see if everybody's here. Tara, the host, not the host, but the moderator is here. And I think it's, okay, Annie Gibbons, you're here. And Precious Isola, you're here. So let's see, somebody's missing. Let me just double check to be sure. I think we're missing Nolan. Are you here?
I'm here.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, I see you. And Emma, are you here? Okay, I think what we're gonna do while we wait for Emma, I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off because we don't wanna end up losing on our time. So why don't I just go ahead and start by thanking everybody for being here, and thanking all the speakers and the moderator, who is also, partnering with me, Impactoverse, Norlene. Thank you so much for everything. But let me go ahead and just get started so that we don't lose time. So here we go. So welcome, everyone. So the Partnership for Progress, Leveraging Imaging Technologies and Smart City Development for Sustainable Future is divided into 3 subsessions. The subsession for this panel 3 is named Best Practices policy and regulatory framework. The objective is to explore the critical role of policy and regulatory frameworks in the development of and success of smart city initiatives by examining how effective policies and regulations enable technological innovation, sustainable urban planning, and socioeconomic development. This session will showcase successful smart city projects from around the world, highlight the best practices for policy creation and implementation, and discuss how regulatory measures can foster an environment conducive to innovation while ensuring public safety, privacy, and equitable access to resources. We expect to gain insights into successful policy and regulatory frameworks and learn how these can be adapted to your own context. To gain best practices in policy implementation, to understand the key components that make these frameworks effective in supporting smart city initiative, to gain concrete policy recommendations that offer guidance to policymakers and creating such supportive environments, to understand regulatory challenges and solutions to ensure smooth implementations of smart city technologies, and to gain knowledge of safeguarding public safety, data privacy, and equitable access to city services, and to enhance collaboration through policy among various stakeholders to drive smart city innovation, and to learn about the impact assessment tools to help stakeholders evaluate the effectiveness and inclusivity of their policy frameworks, to tap into opportunities for funding inclusive technologies, and to promote urban development. So I want to play a short video to introduce you to some remarkable people here. So let's go to it. And before I do that, actually, I should share my screen so you guys can see the video. All right, let me go do that. It is. All right, here we go.
Delving into the United Nations General Assembly, we at JB Dondolo and Impactiverse ask that as you engage, you're reminded of foundational aspects that underpin our work and these panels. Without access and more open science, we cannot progress the goals for the greater good. Without partnerships, collaboration, and coordinated effort, we cannot amplify the impact we intend to have. And without engaging our youth, we risk eliminating the hope of long-term solutions for future generations. On that note, we proudly introduce our youth interns. They'll be listening closely and capturing key insights to be reviewed by us ahead of submission to the UN General Assembly Science Summit to inform the upcoming Summit of the Future. We appreciate your contributions as we embark on this important journey together. Thank you for helping to shape a sustainable future.
All right, so I will stop this now and I will hand it over to your moderator, Tara Carissa Hodges. Thank you so much, everyone. At this point, if you're not talking, please, mute yourself and also turn off your video. Except for the people who are panelists right now, leave your videos turned on. Like Nolene, leave your video turned on. Everybody else. Okay, thank you so much.
Well,
Tara.
hello to everyone all around the world, the globe, morning, evening, day. Lumbie, thank you so very much for putting this together. It is such an important conversation to have, and having read through everyone's bios, visited your websites, your Instagram pages, I am simply blown away by the amazing work that all of you are committed to and how you are impacting the globe. It's truly phenomenal, and I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. As we jump in, Annie, I want to start with you. Given Women's Biz Global's mission to empower 1 million women, how can policy and regulatory frameworks be leveraged to create inclusive and sustainable smart cities that promote gender equality and economic opportunities for women?
Well, thank you so much for that question and this opportunity. I think this is a topic that I'm truly passionate about because it goes right to the heart of what we do at Women's Biz Global. I think when we talk about smart cities, we often immediately think of technology and innovation, and we've been hearing about that with our previous speakers. But to truly unlock the potential of these cities, I think we need to focus on inclusivity, right? We need to ensure that everyone, particularly women, benefit from the growth and the transformation that these smart cities can bring. So now we need to look at policy and regulatory frameworks to find ways that we can leverage them to create these inclusive and sustainable cities that generally promote gender equality. Because if we don't intentionally focus that way, they won't suit the needs of women. And so firstly, policy frameworks must prioritize gender mainstreaming, right? This means that every decision, every plan, every project needs to be analyzed through the lens of gender. We cannot have smart cities that ignore the unique needs and roles and contributions of women, right? For example, we know that women often rely on public transport more than men. So city planners must consider their safety, their accessibility, their affordability when designing transport systems, for example. And ensuring that data is gender disaggregated is critical as well, because it allows city planners to understand how men and women use the city differently and plan accordingly. Accessing healthcare centres, childcare centres, schools, things of that nature. So this data can help identify gaps, whether in access to services or safety or economic opportunities, and address them effectively through targeted policies. I think secondly, there's an issue of representation. So women must be represented not just as users of these services, but as active contributors to their design and implementation, because it'll end up looking differently and it will serve them better. And this means that women need to get into leadership roles within policy-making bodies and ensuring that women's voices are heard at every stage of the city planning. And this can be through public consultations, focus groups, or even requiring that women hold a certain number of seats on urban planning committees. I think one of the critical success factors for integrating gender perspectives into these smart cities is creating an ecosystem for support for women's economic empowerment. Right. And this includes ensuring that women have access to digital literacy programs so that they're not left behind in these technology-driven economies that the smart cities will create. So we want to make sure that we are involved at the table, participating, helping create. And in fact, studies have shown that increasing women's access to technology can have significant multiplier effects, boosting economic growth for the entire communities. And that's what we want to see. So smart cities definitely serve as hubs for entrepreneurship, and but only if we have policies in place to ensure equal access to digital tools, funding, and networking for women. And then furthermore, then women need to be supported in the tech sector itself. If we want cities to be inclusive, we need women not only to be beneficiaries, but as creators of the technology that drives these cities. So this requires systemic changes in education, vocational training, and workplace policies to encourage more women to enter and thrive in STEM fields. So put simply, leveraging policy and frameworks to promote gender equality. It's got three different parts: gender disaggregated data to ensure our needs are not overlooked, representation of women in leadership roles so that we can affect planning and policy making, and access to education and technology to ensure that we truly contribute equally to the city's development.
Awesome. You said so many phenomenal points. I think this is the perfect place to pivot to Emma. Emma, being the leader of Tanzania Women CEOs Roundtable, bringing together women leaders who own or lead businesses in both private and public sector, what recommendations and strategies can policymakers adopt to both support the growth of smart city initiatives and ensure that they promote exactly what Annie just said, which is social equity, generational wealth, and effective policy development for both men and women. If you can turn on your mic, I know you're saying something phenomenal. Just hit unmute at the bottom of your screen. While we're waiting on Emma to answer that, Nolene, do you have any thoughts? What perspective do you bring to the table?
Hi, Tara. Yeah, so there's so much of what has already been said, which is absolutely crucial in terms of how we move forward with smart city development. And it is about consciously looking at how we're inclusive and how it is that we're intentionally designing smart city projects. And the whole focus has to very much be in looking at it in terms of collaboration and collaborations with multiple stakeholders across sectors and across different strata of society. We have to look at underserved communities, underserved populations and individuals, because if we don't, we risk increasing that digital divide. I might just hop on if Emma's not joining in soon. Shall I just cover some of the topic I'd intended to, Tara?
Well, absolutely, because Emma, I'm going to pivot back to you. I see your mic just opened up. So it is your decision at this point. Would you like to continue or would you like me to go back to Emma and come back?
It's all right. I'll continue, Emma, if that's good with you.
And I'll come back to you, Emma.
Great. There have been key points made both by speakers earlier on the panel. Ladies, thank you so much. Annie, phenomenal points. But in the subsession prior to this as well, so much of the focus has to be, or a lot of the focus has to be on inclusivity and education, which we'll talk about later as well. But when we look at bringing together policy, technology, and conscious capitalism, this is what we really need to be able to bridge that digital divide in smart city projects. But it's only if we go about doing that we talk a lot about ethics, but we have to consider what is the basis of the ethical framework that we're using. And, Annie spoke about looking at things with a gender lens. And that's true. And there are so many other subsections of society that we need to be looking at when we're developing these projects. When we're looking at integrated approaches to policy, technology, and conscious capitalism, that is what will underpin an inclusive smart city. Policy is crucial. And the reason that it's so key is because it drives a lot of what happens both in terms of development and infrastructure, but also what happens with funding. So if we don't start looking at how policy enables this inclusivity, how policy allows for organizations to be incentivized. One of the speakers in a subsession spoke about incentivization around data collection, but we need to look at incentivization around inclusivity as well. So for example, building of digital infrastructure. A lot of this is the responsibility lies with private corporations. And if we don't start looking at how that is incentivized for them to make digital infrastructure more inclusive and more accessible, then we don't end up with an inclusive smart city. Technology will enable everything in terms of future development, but only for some if we don't start looking at these things like making things more affordable, giving public access to digital tools, and not sort of getting away with saying someone has access to something, because just having access doesn't mean that it is possible for someone to actually engage with that. So we need to be more conscious of actually being able to allow for and supporting people to engage with the resources that we're putting out there. It's going to be, key when we're looking at things like, for example, telemedicine, online education. And we've seen it over the last few years with the pandemic, remote working. And even those basic things still leave so many people far behind. And when we're starting to look at everything else become more digitally integrated, when we're looking at smart cities and everything being created by design, if we don't design it in a conscious way where we're actually looking at true inclusivity, then we increase that digital divide. We don't, we don't allow for technology to be an enabler. And the reason that policy and conscious capitalism is so important is that policy drives everything that happens within the infrastructure, and capitalism allows for a lot of the mechanics to actually work. And it needs to be a multi-pronged approach for us to be able to get to the position that we need to get to.
Thank you for that. Ms. Emma, I know you have so much to say, and so I definitely want to pivot back to you to hear your response to both Annie and Nolene as it relates to how you serve our community.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here and to be in this ecosystem of the Science Summit at UNGA-79. I thank you all. As we said earlier, we need to be in an ecosystem where we work together, inclusiveness, and we need to cooperate, we need to collaborate, and we need to be part of all the movements. This starts from the policy, from the decision-making, from the initial idea, and up to the execution. As I speak as a woman leader, I believe women, the marginalized groups, and all other key stakeholders should be part of this system. And they should be consulted. They should be part of the project to build up the urban cities. And also, I believe in order to have what is called collective projects or movements, which we believe that we were working together, we must all start by engaging everyone, asking participation, and also making groups so that we can execute all these programs. And also, I believe as women need to take a center stage. We know we are capable of doing that, and we should speak louder. We should play a bigger role with a bigger voice by working together, showing that we can make a movement. We can make a change in this science and technology issues.
Wonderful, thank you. So often when we speak about equality and equity, we do focus on male, female, because, well, those are the genders. But I like to also focus on the next generation. And so, Precious, I'm coming straight to you. You have done so much work amongst the next generation. How can policies and regulations be designed to foster technological innovation within smart cities, especially in the context of your work, and how you have worked to help the performance of thousands of students, the next generation? What challenges do you foresee in balancing innovation with regulatory compliance, and how can these challenges be effectively addressed?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Thank you, Tara. So I would actually start from the last, and I would start by focusing on the challenges we foresee in, again, balancing innovation with regulatory compliance. So there are inherent challenges when it comes to balancing innovation with regulatory compliance. And that is because innovation is always faster and moves ahead of policies and compliance. I mean, most times innovations precedes regulatory compliance, and most times innovation actually calls for compliance. So we've seen this in time past with financial technology. We've seen it with innovations like the cryptocurrency that is calling for global regulatory compliance. So, and again, The reason for this tussle and the need for balance is because there's a large technical knowledge gap between the innovators and the regulators. I mean, we see it every time. The innovators are always faster, they're always forward thinking in certain regards. So it gets to a point where sometimes innovators think that the regulators or the policymakers are holding them back. Whereas most times these regulators or policymakers are ensuring that there's no wide-scale damage or harm, because the duty of the regulators most times is to safeguard the interests of the citizens. In the context of smart cities, yeah, that's the first duty of the regulator. So I think the first challenge, yeah, talking about the challenges of, again, balancing innovation with regulations. The first challenge is data collection and privacy. So innovations in smart cities is predicated and built on the judicious use of citizens' data to make informed decisions. And in the previous session, we talked a lot about data privacy, data collection, and all of that, right? So I think the major challenge, again, would be in earning the trust of the citizens, yeah, who will be the users and the end users and beneficiaries of smart cities innovations. So the challenge, again, would be earning the trust of citizens and government. Take, for instance, a surveillance system that matches each person's face for identity and security, and then for traceability in the case of crime or kidnapping, for instance, right? So innovators in such case study, for instance, need to convince the regulatory body that the citizens' data is safe and can be breached. So there needs to be a transparency in the usage of citizens' data. We need to address that, first of all, as one of the challenges. So to now further address the challenge in balancing innovation and regulatory compliance, I think like key things in, again, designing policies and regulations would be to first assess the infrastructure available, and then also do a lot of future growth projections. We need to understand what the growth is going to look like, to know the infrastructure available to aid growth of smart cities. Yeah, we need to start we need to design policies around manufacturing companies. There are a lot of times when, in most cases and in most innovations, there is what we call elements of foreign technology. Yeah, there are times when innovators would have to import technology from foreign countries. So you can imagine in the area of sensor, in the area of technology that concerns data collection, how do we build trust in that regard? So we need to develop policies around these areas. So I would also suggest that we build policies in terms of setting up task forces that would be a collection of the major stakeholders, that including the innovators, the government, public policymakers, regulatory compliance officers, and the citizens. So I believe committees like this would help to assess innovations in smart cities and ensure prompt implementation, because at the end of the day, we need these innovations to address challenges and increase efficiencies across certain areas in our cities. Yeah, and then finally, I think we also need policies regarding environmental sustainability. We need to ensure that as we bring on these smart cities innovations, we are not jeopardizing environmental sustainability to make this innovation come to life. So I think key areas where we need to consider in designing policies and regulations for innovation within smart cities. Thank you.
Thank you. What a loaded answer. I could come behind you and ask so many questions. Thank you for that. You know, when I listen to everyone's answer, the common theme centers around policy. And so an open question to all of the panelists is, how can we best approach our leaders to begin the wheels of change for policy to change? What can be done? I know everyone represents a different state, a different country. What can be done? What is being done? What is your organization doing to reach out to those policymakers?
Okay, if I can go first, don't mind.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so what I particularly think is that we need to set up a stakeholders forum across levels of government, across depending on the country peculiarities. We need to set up stakeholders forum across each level, from the local government, the state level government, and even the federal government level. So these stakeholders should consist of, again, the government officials, policymakers, regulatory compliance officers, and the citizens, and then the innovators. So I think these are like the key stakeholders, because for every smart city innovation, the end users are the citizens. So we need the citizens' say, we need their involvement, we need to hear from them. So if we can have these forums across levels of government, I think it will help with implementing smart city innovations. And then we also need to do a lot of policy transfer. If we can identify a policy that is working in a level of government or in a particular city within a country, or maybe even within a continent, I think we should learn to embrace a policy transfer, see how we can use the framework of a working policy and implement that same framework in another city. So we need to do that. We need to do a policy transfer. We need to also set up stakeholders forums across levels of government. I think that's key to that question, to the answer for that question. Yeah.
Thank you. Annie, would you like to answer that?
Oh, I loved your response, Precious. Thank you so much. I think we need to turn just from being visionary and academic in the planning to actually having the lived experience. I think it's so important for consumers to actually be represented at the table, because they're actually showing, there's no point having innovation and effective, efficient sort of, frameworks and policies in place if that person doesn't feel safe, if they don't feel secure, if they're not then empowered and supported to be able to grow in the area of life or business that they're trying to operate in. It's all sort of all in void, really, if that's not possible. So I think it's really important for us to help position not just people who are, well credentialed and part of that program, but also to be having the consumer voice heard throughout the process, so that those people are actually, it makes it real. Right. I think we can become so many things are built around this world that are just sort of, concepts, but then, when you then start operating it and using it, how does that person live their life? How do they then go about that job? How will their next generation then be evolving and changing and using it? So what's the future of this environment? I think it's really important to sort of actually see what that really looks like, as well as, the academic framework of what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Emma.
Oh, yeah. I would say we need to have a sustainability and a generational wealth creation, support for green businesses, integrational wealth, inclusive of smart education skills development, training of digital literacy, and creation of gender-sensitive policy frameworks. Is where I come from, because what I lead about, I support and promote about women leadership. That's what I've talked about: legislative support, public-private partnerships with women-led enterprises. I'll speak about sustainable housing, urban planning. I'll speak about, in conclusion, I'll say the policymakers must ensure the smart cities initiatives must not only drive economic growth, but also promote social equity, generational wealth, inclusivity of design strategies, and that are gender sensitive. As we speak, we are all here. It's not about only women and youth, it's also all even inclusive of men. We need to work together and have responsibilities, responsible infrastructure, and on STEM, infrastructure STEM, because STEM is something which is now, you need it. You cannot live. You have to have a broadband access, affordable technology. This is most important. Digital infrastructure with equity in mind. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Emma, I want to come right back to you and ask you this question. How can smart city policies and regulations be designed to ensure that everyone, like you just said, we got to include everybody, to ensure that everyone benefits from urban innovation, regardless of their socio-economic status or geographic location? Because sometimes those can play a role as well.
I would say stakeholders involvement, public consultation, and promotion, and more gender and promotion of equity in tech and leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that. I want to leave the rest of the few minutes that we have left to ask everyone, what are the next steps for your organization? What are the next steps? What are you working on? What are you hoping to achieve by the end of, let's say, next year and the next 5 years?
For Women's Biz Global, we're on a mission to help 1 million women around the globe to become financially independent, right? It's because then you have freedom. You have freedom to be safe, secure, and then to be able to, grow, be empowered, leave a legacy, change, not just the gender focus, but also just, the profitability of, yourself, your communities, those around the world. And so for us, it's about how do we actually help women, specifically in my organization, how do we actually help them, grow in their leadership, have those opportunities career-wise, be able to start businesses, be able to be mentored and supported, to be able to be at those tables that influence change. It's actually being able to, help them. So from our side, it's mentoring and coaching and brand elevation and really being able to equip them practically to be able to believe that, their efforts are, are of merit, they're worthy, and they will basically change the future of the world once you start really leaning into that. So that's what we're doing. We're actually just focusing on the practical equipping, the equipping of women around the globe, but then also seeing the opportunity, looking at which sort of, areas that they can get into, such as tech, business, any areas of economic growth, that they will then find their place in that so that they can equally contribute and with the benefit of having, a better world, a safer world, a more sustainable planet.
Thank you. Precious?
Okay, yeah. So I run an edtech company, education technology company called Elemo, and our big vision is to provide quality education for students globally by leveraging technology, basically. So from our own hand, what we're trying to drive is inclusion of emerging technologies in the education curriculum. That is from K-12 to higher education. And again, this is because of the great role that emerging technologies would play in innovations when it comes to smart cities and even in the fourth industrial revolution. So we need to start embracing emerging technologies. So I think for us, we are trying to take a foundational approach, a very, very foundational and basic approach, because we believe that if we can implement the knowledge of emerging technologies in the education curriculum, we can create more awareness in the mind of students on the advantages of emerging technologies, the impact, the implications. I mean, considering impact, I mean, variance of impact now, because at the end of the day, these students would either become citizens who would enjoy and be the end user or beneficiary of smart city innovations, or they would become innovators, or they would become policymakers or regulatory compliance officers. So if we can start this early, like I said, it's a foundational solution, a foundational approach. But if we can get the knowledge of technology, emerging technologies to be included in the educational curriculum at an early age, then we can have a society, we can have stakeholders who are well aware of the benefits and impact of smart city innovation. So when it comes to having a stakeholder forum, or when it comes to policy making, or when it comes to implementation, or when it comes to the acceptance of smart city innovations by citizens, I think there will be a ease, and there's going to be an ease, and there's going to be a flow, because if everybody can be brought to the knowledge of the impact, the benefits of emerging technologies, then I think we can really move well, design policies, implement innovations faster, and have a better and sustainable cities. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Very quickly, Emma, we've got 2 minutes left. Emma, tell us the vision for what your organization will be working towards these next 5 years.
It's about having more women taking a center stage, having a seat more in the decision making. When I say that, but how can you bring them there? You have to give them a self-awareness. This means coaching and mentoring is very crucial to all women to understand what they are worth by branding them, packaging them, profiling them, and bringing them out with the leadership ethics. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Nolene, we'll allow you to close us out.
Okay, great. Thank you. For us, both with Think Ocean and Impactoverse, it's very much about how we work and facilitate collaborations and partnerships to be able to scale impact. And that's on numerous levels: inclusivity around education and bridging that digital divide, looking at innovations and how they can be more empowering to communities, looking at how we create visibility around the projects that are happening on the ground, because so many of them are just busy doing the work on the ground and aren't really linked to the policies and the frameworks and the discussions that take place. So it's very much around how do we facilitate partnerships? How do we build on these collaborations? And how do we ensure that the conversations that we have and the technology and the ecosystems that we build are actually for the people and for the planet, and are actually about doing things on the ground as opposed to just being policy.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for all of your answers. This conversation could have gone on for the rest of the day. So much rich information. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your schedule to share your wealth of wisdom with everyone listening in and with all of us. All the best wishes to everyone listening in. And Lumbie, we are right at 11. My time. I know it's a different time everywhere.
You are so good at managing time, Tara. I'm so
you.
impressed by you. You are very good. You can have maybe a minute or two to let people know what you do yourself, what your company does, because we haven't heard about that.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, primarily, I have a media company and I am committed to positive media. So I work with networks and I help to cast people on television shows that I can stand behind because I am faith-based. But beyond that, I'm also known as a women's empowerment speaker. I've traveled all over the globe to empower women with faith-based principles. And I'm very honored by that. And how Lumbie and I got connected is I also believe in philanthropy. Every single month, my organization, we support financially at least 10 organizations globally that are committed to seeing that everyone has basics met, whether it is a stable internet service so that they can go to school, they can get schoolwork done, clean water, water wells, whatever the case may be. And so I'm very honored that I was extended this opportunity. And I hope that everyone on this segment today will continue to do the great work that I believe is so necessary for us to live in a humane society.
Wow. Everybody you heard her. She's remarkable. His support has moved us way ahead with the water issues. So thank you so much, Tara, for your support. So with that being said, I think that's the end. And I just want to thank everyone for attending this session today. It's been great. It's really been remarkable. Thank you, all the moderators, and thank you, our interns for listening in and taking notes. We're going to be creating a report with the interns. So we're going to share with everybody once it's ready in about a day or two. So thanks, everyone. Feel free to drop. We have another session coming on in about a couple of hours. Please feel free to join, and it's going to be fantastic again. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.